August 5th, 2020. Well, guys, are you ready for it? Are you ready for polio season? I mean, flu season? I mean, coronavirus season? I mean, acute flaccid myelitis season? Are you ready for it? Because it's coming. Are you watching the headlines? Because that's all they're talking about right now. Of course, coronavirus is always going to be the topic of the day because of cases and mortality and contact tracing and military martial law being shoved down our throats. But of course, they got to keep us in line. They got to keep us buying their protection. Guys, you don't need to pay the pharmaceutical mob to protect you from infection. You were blessed with an immune system, a very powerful arsenal. You are armed and ready to fight infection, and you get better and better and better at it the more experience your body gets at fighting infection. And of course, the more you take care of yourself with a proper balanced diet and a good healthy lifestyle that includes being active and exercising. That's it. That's all you need to worry about. You don't have to worry about vaccination and therapeutics if you live a good balanced life. And what am I talking about? Polio season. Well, let's take a look. Let's jump into some of the headlines. Well, actually, before we even do that, what about all the crazy censorship that's going on? Now, I'm not going to support the use of these therapeutics, but if medicine has found one that is being successful and doctors want to talk about it, well, that should be up to them. And they're being deleted as if they've never existed on the internet, no matter who's sharing it. It's crazy. And then the high wire with Del Bigtree, one of the most objective on the subject matter of vaccination and medicine and even food, where they always reference scientific information, completely deleted from existence on YouTube. I mean, it is unreal. So, now that you can't find it here on YouTube, where can you find it? The best place is going to be thehighwire.com, and from there you can go to watch. So thehighwire.com/watch is where you can watch the videos live, and they're uploading and archiving content all over the place. I like to use Brighteon, but they're on many different platforms. You know how to use the internet, go and find it. If you never stayed caught up with the High Wire, I'm grateful to say that I have followed them from day one, and I've never missed an episode, and I've learned a ton from these guys, and I share things that I learn here, and they're just one platform. And there's so many other amazing teachers out there that you can learn from, and yes, make sure you always do your own research. Okay, so great plug for them, for my small circle of influence. Anyway, articles from yesterday and today even. What's going on? Well, we're approaching flu season. Time to get your flu shot. Oh, and it's more important than ever since the coronavirus exists now and everybody's threatened and scary. Now's the perfect time to push this vaccine on you, especially because it's something that they can profit off of now since the unicorn coronavirus vaccine doesn't exist yet. So of course, you're going to get all this propaganda on why it's more important than ever that you get the flu shot now. So here's an article from NPR yesterday, 2020 flu shot strategy. Get it early in the season. Come on, guys, get the shot. You need it because with coronavirus and everything going on, we need you to get the flu shot. Here's another one from CNBC. Flu shot makers plan to supply record numbers of vaccine doses among the COVID-19 pandemic. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do with all these viruses? Well, viruses outnumber human cells in our body like 100 to 1. We're more virus than anything else. So if you want to try killing viruses, you're just killing yourself. I've said this before. Here's another one. Flu shot manufacturers to supply record number of vaccines. So here's what they're telling you. There's going to be a record number of flu shot administrations. At least they're hoping that this propaganda will work. And in anticipation of record flu shot injections. Guess what the next headline we're going to talk about is? The CDC is anticipating acute flaccid myelitis, the polio-like disease that causes paralysis in kids, to peak this year. Literally the same day they're saying we're going to have record number of flu shots this year, we also expect record cases of acute flaccid myelitis. Coincidence? Heck no. Here's another one from The Hill. CDC expects 2020 outbreak of rare life-threatening condition affecting children. Here's another one from good old CNN. CDC warns parents to be on the lookout for acute flaccid myelitis in children. And here's another one. CDC warns parents of an acute flaccid myelitis outbreak that can cause permanent paralysis and respiratory failure. This one from this morning. And there's no shortage of these articles, okay? So again, I'm going to point to the fact that the same day they're telling you there will be record number of flu shot administrations, we're going to have record cases of acute flaccid myelitis. I'm just trying to help you guys connect the dots when the mainstream media is straight up telling you we're causing all these problems without actually saying it. Let's pick this one from The Hill. CDC expects 2020 outbreak of rare life-threatening condition affecting children. Okay. They're warning parents and doctors Tuesday that it expects another outbreak this year of a rare but life-threatening condition that mostly affects children. Let's see. It's back to school season, so these children are getting forced to get, because of mandates, they're getting forced to get their booster shots and flu shots, and all these poor kids are coming down with acute flaccid myelitis. Interesting. So the last peak occurred in 2018 when 238 cases were reported to the CDC. This is interesting. While rare, parents and doctors should be vigilant to recognize symptoms of acute flaccid myelitis because it progresses quickly over the course of hours or days, leading to permanent paralysis or life-threatening respiratory failure in previously healthy patients, according to the CDC. Quote, as we head into these critical next few months, CDC is taking necessary steps to help clinicians better recognize signs and symptoms of acute flaccid myelitis in children, said CDC Director Robert Redfield. We want you to recognize the symptoms but never connect it to the fact that you just gave that kid a shot 2 weeks ago. Symptoms can include recent or current respiratory illness, fever, pain, or numbness in limbs, difficulty walking, talking, or swallowing, headache, back or neck pain, or facial weakness. Parents should immediately seek medical care if a child develops sudden arm or leg weakness, the CDC says. And it goes on to talk about information about this disease or condition. We've learned a lot, but we have a lot to learn about acute flaccid myelitis. We don't yet know why certain kids develop acute flaccid myelitis. Again, we don't know why certain kids develop acute flaccid myelitis, but we're going to tell you to expect record numbers this year. When the great majority who have respiratory illness recover with no neurological symptoms. Not understanding risk factors means I also can't tell parents anything specific they can do to prevent acute flaccid myelitis, but it's important to remember usual hygiene measures we recommend in respiratory virus season. Okay, I can tell you, don't inject your children with heavy metals and toxins that destroy the central nervous system. There's a good place to start. All right, so let's move on. I think I've made the point there, but this isn't anything new. This has been going on for a long, long time. Enteroviruses are a class of viruses that can, when given access to the central nervous system, cause paralysis and wreak havoc, demyelination, all kinds of problems. We've known this for a long, long time. Now, there are hundreds of enteroviruses. There are 3 specific ones that are officially tied to the diagnosis of polio, which this particular strain of enterovirus, D68, that causes acute flaccid myelitis, is not officially going to be polio, but it's polio. Okay, we have not eradicated polio here in the United States. We still have it. It's just a different enterovirus. It's D68. So what articles exist that actually try to connect the dots between acute flaccid myelitis and vaccination? Let's look at a few. So from vaxtruth.org, this journalist, Marcella, she wrote one called Acute Flaccid Myelitis. What is it? Is it treatable? And can vaccines cause it? Goes in and talks about what it is, that it's a subtype of transverse myelitis, which we know is caused by vaccination. Acute flaccid myelitis and abnormalities noted on MRI are predominantly found in the gray matter of the spinal cord. In a 2013 outbreak of what is now believed to be subtype of transverse myelitis occurred in California, and more cases were reported in the summer and fall of 2014 across the United States, and of course 2016, 2018, and now 2020. The enterovirus D68 has been suspect in many of these cases. However, it has not been definitively proven that it is the particular virus that has caused the paralysis. Okay. Is there evidence that vaccines are associated with transverse myelitis? Yes. It's a common consequence of vaccination and has been reimbursed in a vaccine injury compensation program. Transverse myelitis is a rare clinical syndrome in which an immune-mediated process causes neural injury to the spinal cord. The pathogenesis of transverse myelitis is mostly of an autoimmune nature, triggered by various environmental factors, including vaccination. You can go on to read this. It sources the study from PubMed. Has transverse myelitis been recognized by the vaccine court as an injury? Yes, it has. What vaccines are known to be associated with transverse myelitis? DTaP, Hep B, HPV, yes, influenza, MMR, meningococcal, Tdap. References here. Is there effective treatment for vaccine-induced transverse myelitis? Yes, if it's recognized as a vaccine injury and treated accordingly. 4 days following the H1N1 vaccination, patients developed longitudinally extensive transverse myelitis. Extensive diagnostic evaluation effectively ruled out causes of other vaccination-associated transverse myelitis. Following treatment with corticosteroids and plasmapheresis, the patient made significant recoveries. So, better yet, don't take the shot. Here's another article from Marcella again in 2016, Acute Flaccid Myelitis and Routine Childhood Vaccinations. This is nothing new. Again, you can go through, look this up. I highly encourage that you do read through it. It talks about all these cases that have happened and even shows you how back in the 40s and 50s, provocation polio was one of the main causes of paralysis back then, and it was caused by 2 very common things, tonsillectomies and the polio shot itself or vaccination itself. Okay, deep puncture wounds pushing enterovirus D68 is in the air. It's on our skin. Okay, a deep puncture wound going deep into the muscle will push that virus in and give access to the nervous system. What does that? Vaccination. It's very simple. So let's look at a case in Seattle where a child died back in 2016. Rare, again, polio-like illness suspected in Bellingham child's death. This 6-year-old Bellingham boy, one of 8 children in the state, was hospitalized this fall with what may be a mysterious polio-like illness, has died, family members and health officials say. So they go in talking about the death, talking about acute flaccid myelitis and what's happening, and that there's this big outbreak across the country and hundreds of cases. And then, this was October of 2016, then the child dies. And so in November, they come out and say, oh, no, he didn't die from acute flaccid myelitis. Nope, it wasn't that. Okay, then what was it? Well, guess what his family says? The boy's grandmother said that Daniel's family suspects he may have had a reaction to multiple vaccines that were required for school admission, plus the flu shot that was given just a couple weeks before he ended up paralyzed and dying. Oh, no, that can't happen. That's just a coincidence. Yeah, right. Again, more coverage of this back in 2018. Here was a great article talking about many of the hundreds of cases of this polio-like disease. They always say polio-like because they'll never want to call it polio because they have to maintain the story that vaccines eradicated polio instead of the fact that they're causing these paralytic cases. You can go through and read this one. Zero Hedge. Polio-like disease spreads. Record number of cases reported as children suffer paralysis. It goes in and talks about how this is going on, how it's a big mystery, hundreds of cases. We don't know what it is. Here I'll just read a little excerpt. It says, investigators have suspected it is caused by a virus called enterovirus D68. The 2014 wave coincided with a lot of EVD68 infections, and the virus remains the leading hypothesis. But let's look a little deeper. What does some of the science say? Here's a 2016 study. Vaccine, associated inflammatory diseases of the central nervous system from signals to causation. So this is just the abstract, but basically talking about how, well, we'll just read through it. Purpose of review. As the most cost-effective intervention in preventative medicine and as a crucial element of any public health program, vaccination is used extensively with over 90% coverage in many countries. Any study that wants to get published has to praise vaccination first before that they can question risk. Okay? It'll always start out that way. Or somewhere in the study it will always say this is the most amazing thing that's ever happened. It's the most important technological advancement that helped get rid of infectious disease. And if you've looked at history, it's not. It's sanitation, hygiene, and clean water. But of course they have to plug it as the savior of the world in order to get published. Now, as approximately 5 to 8% of the population in developed countries suffer from an autoimmune disorder, people with an autoimmune disease are most likely to be exposed to some vaccines before or after the disease onset. In fact, a number of inflammatory disorders of the central nervous system have been associated with the administration of various vaccines. These adverse events, be they spurious association of genuine reactions to the vaccine, may lead to difficulties in obtaining public trust in mass vaccination programs. There is thus an urgent need to understand whether vaccination triggers or enhances autoimmune response. Summary, the lessons learned emphasize the central role of thorough, ideally prospective epidemiological studies followed if the signal is deemed plausible or real by immunological investigations, meaning we need to look deeper into this. Another study, 2013, acute disseminated encephalomyelitis following seasonal influenza vaccination in an elderly patient. This is just a case report, but certain vaccines might trigger serious neurological immune phenomena such as Guillain-Barré syndrome, seizures, cranial neuropathy, and acute disseminated encephalomyelitis. Here we report on an elderly woman with ADEM following seasonal influenza vaccination who received after plasma exchange. You can go through and read that. Here's another one from 2014. The spectrum of post-vaccination inflammatory central nervous system demyelinating syndromes. Go ahead and read through that one. Talks about all the different cases that they've tracked post-vaccination. Neurological complications associated with the flu shot. But here's a telling one when they're specifically looking at the acute flaccid myelitis and these massive increases going on. This is from the British Medical Journal. This is from 2018. Rapid response, acute flaccid myelitis, measles, and vaccine mandates. As of February 18th, the CDC has confirmed 215 U.S. cases of acute flaccid myelitis in 2018. An additional 156 possible cases are still being investigated. The final 2018 total would be 250 to 300 cases. Annual totals from 2014 to 2017 were 120, 22, 149, and 35. Experts believe these numbers are a fraction. Expert believes these numbers are a fraction of the real U.S. totals because of underreporting. As usual when it comes to vaccine adverse events, underreporting. Non-polio enteroviruses are agents of interest as causes of acute flaccid myelitis, particularly enterovirus D68. Only a tiny minority of D68 infected children develop acute flaccid myelitis, which prompts experts to ask about risk factors that predispose to paralytic disease. In public, they speak in generalities, but avoid mentioning the possibility that injections of vaccines or antibiotics could be cofactors in 75% of acute flaccid myelitis cases. You hear me? Injection of vaccines or antibiotics as a cofactor in 75% of these cases. That is the risk generally attributable to injection in acute flaccid myelitis caused by polio viruses. The foregoing has a bearing on the public health response to recent measles outbreaks. In the U.S., there have been renewed calls for elimination of all non-medical exemptions from vaccine mandates. They want to take away all exemptions, which we've seen happen state after state after state. What do we have? California, Vermont, Maine, Mississippi. It goes on and on. They're trying to get rid of them here in Colorado. This is a big deal. So, renewed calls for the elimination of all non-medical exemptions from vaccine mandates, not just measles vaccine, but from every single vaccine on the immunization schedule. Then it says, well, for measles it's justified, but what about the rest? It says a mandate for measles vaccine can be scientifically and ethically justified, which it cannot. Not so for most of the other vaccines. The emergency of acute flaccid myelitis, a devastating paralytic disease, and the possibility that it could be triggered by vaccination forces us to rethink some of these vaccine mandates. One of the reasons for parental vaccine hesitancy and some measles cases is bullying by public health and pediatric officialdom. Parents who might have accepted measles vaccinations for a child are put off by the extensive vaccine buffet they are pressured to accept. They and many physicians know that manufacturers have been exempted from any liability for adverse effects. Furthermore, they are aware that our knowledge of long-term safety and effectiveness of many vaccines is quite limited, contrary to repeated assertions by the CDC and media outlets. Again, they are aware that our knowledge of long-term safety and effectiveness of many vaccines is quite limited, which means they don't know shit about the long-term effects of vaccination. And these outbreaks that are happening are results of vaccine failure. Our coverage in this country of vaccination is anywhere from 90 to 95%, and we're having outbreaks more than we did back when the coverage was 60%. It's vaccine failure, guys. Here's another one you can read, similar to this vaxtruth.org one. This one comes from freepress.org. March of 2019. Could acute flaccid myelitis be an iatrogenic vaccine-induced illness? And yes it can. And this actually uses a lot of the content from the other article that we talked about, but it dives into many of the scientific articles telling you what acute flaccid myelitis is. Is it really a mysterious illness? And yes, it is very highly correlated and most likely causation of vaccination. So you can go through and read that. And guys, I'm not saying any of this is concrete. This is all speculation on my end. Do your own research. But I do know that we have everything we need to fight these infectious diseases if we just live a healthy lifestyle. And another great video that you could watch is Forrest Moretti's My Incredible Opinion. Or I guess the channel's called My Incredible Opinion with Forrest Moretti. But his 60th episode talks about this mysterious polio-like illness. And he dives into great detail in about, it's only 11 minutes long, go watch it, about acute flaccid myelitis, how it goes hand in hand with back to school shots and flu shot administration, as well as tonsillectomies. And we don't have to be seeing this. It is not a mystery, but the CDC and the World Health Organization, nobody's going to talk about that publicly because they have to force the positive story of vaccination on you. If you don't understand that, you can go watch my social engineering video that talks about how, no information that would discuss vaccine risk, no matter how credible, can exist in the public view. And you can learn more about that. Go do your freaking research. Don't listen to Forbes, who recently wrote an article that says, don't do your own research when it comes to science. Yes, do. You as a parent, as the patriarch or the matriarch in your home, my goodness, it is your responsibility as the father or mother to do that research. If you're going to be making these decisions on behalf of your children and even for yourself or your spouse, you need to know the details so that you can make a truly informed decision based on all the information that currently exists, because the science is never settled. It is so far from settled. And the science that does exist shows you that there is huge amounts of risk with vaccination. So, are you ready again? Let me ask you one more time. Are you ready for polio season? For acute flaccid myelitis season? For flu season? For cold season? For coronavirus season? None of these are going to go away. But you don't have to fear them ever. If you just make wise choices in life, eat right, avoid franken foods, artificial anything, artificial colors, artificial flavors, monosodium glutamate, excitotoxins. You go watch the excitotoxicity video to learn the difference. Genetically modified organisms, pesticides, all this stuff that's unnatural is destroying our body. Fluoride in the water. You name it. Avoid toxicity, ensure nutrient-dense diet, and get active, and you will be okay. You can get sick, you can get better, and you can have a smarter and more efficient immune system because of it. All right, guys, I got to run. Oh, one more thing. It is August 5th. It's a very important day. I tried to rush through this because it is my beautiful wife Mandy's birthday. And I just want to give her a quick shout out because she is a true blessing in my life. She's amazing and our kids are so blessed. So there's my sweet wife Mandy with our beautiful kids, giving her a big birthday hug this morning. And Mandy, I love you with all my heart. I'm thankful for you. You are the greatest blessing of my life. And I'm excited to continue to spend eternity with you every single day. I love you, sweetie.